All right, we are going live and it should be streaming now, guys. So this is coming through loud and clear. I've got my new setup here with another monitor so I can keep another eye on the chat, and we're going to be talking about everything that happened today as BSV jumped the rankings. All right, we are going live. Awesome. So we've got Ben moderating. We've got plenty of people coming in. We've got 100 watching already. And there's plenty to talk about with Craig claiming he's got the final slice of those keys to Satoshi's coins. We're going to go over all the news, a bit of history. I'm going to talk about the price, and then obviously what I think is going to happen. Yes, I don't like CoinMarketCap. It's been freezing a lot lately, Skynet. Okay, so how are you guys all going? What did you make of the day's price action? I might take some questions and have a look through the chat at the end as well. But this is a snapshot from when BSV did get to number 3 on CoinMarketCap. There's plenty of excitement as it passed Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, XRP, BNB, particularly as Binance delisted BSV, and a lot of exchanges have delisted BSV as well. So it actually touched over $450 at one stage today on FTX, and I'm going to talk about that as well. But just give everyone a little minute to tune in here. I think this is going to be a very widely watched episode. Everyone wants to know what is going on. If you've been in crypto for a couple of years, you'll know that's not the first time there's been this kind of drama and these things have played out. And there's plenty of evidence, I guess, both ways. And this is a topic that's so divisive. People are very, very emotional about it all. So, look, in the chat tonight, guys, just be respectful to one another. One of the best, I think, New Year's resolutions I had was getting at that block button and mute button to anyone that's just, swearing, being rude and disrespectful. And some people that I've met, I've got people that I know that are BSV supporters, and I've met them in real life, and they're nice people, and yet on social media everyone just thinks that you're allowed to swear and carry on and troll. We don't tolerate that here at Nuggets News. Okay, so we've got well over 150 watching. Let's get into the news. Let's talk about what happened today. So as you've probably seen by now, we got the news that Craig has been delivered the final piece, this key slice to the Tulip Trust 3. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, but if you've been following this for a while now, you'll know the background of this story, but I do want to dive into that a little bit more. But before we do, I just want to remind everyone that back in 2017, we had a similar situation where there was a lot of fear and panic on social media, and a lot of retail investors, they don't know the background, the story when these narratives come out and price starts to pump. So there was actually a weekend, and I remember this so clearly because it was on my birthday, and Bitcoin Cash went from practically nothing, $100 or so. It ran very quickly to nearly $2,000. Then we had this enormous pump up to $4,000. And then it all sort of unwound and ended up being down 98, 99%, like a lot of altcoins were at that stage. But I just want people to be aware on how quick these things can change when these narratives and the fear of people thought that BCH was the real Bitcoin, and then the shorters come in, the traders, and they get liquidated, and that pushes price higher, and then that starts more FOMO. So we can have these cascading effects in crypto because of leverage trading, because of emotion and whatnot. So not a direct comparison, but it was something very similar that played out. And this was, again, if you're a trader, you can profit from both sides of this. But as an investor and a noob, just be careful when you read all these headlines and whatnot. So before all the BSV crowd start bashing, and I'm going to talk about some trade ideas and shorting BSV that I've done a couple of times recently, before everyone just starts bashing, I want to share with you guys a trade idea that I did, and I copped an earful from people on social media. So back in April, I actually said that trade idea, I'm actually getting long BSV here. I'm buying BSV. This is a trade. I actually think it could pump. And at the time, BSV was around $50, and people thought I was crazy. I said, Craig's probably got some tricks in store. He's not going to let this coin die. And sure enough, it only was a week or two later when we got this enormous pump. And I know plenty of our members made great money on that trade as well. And after that, it really did unwind. Until recently, where in the last few days even it's gone from $100 touching $450 today. So if we go down the time frames, we had a couple of steps higher today. I will show you the shorts that have come in, and we did get a bit of a short squeeze, and they're actually approaching record levels again. So there's a lot of people, margin traders, betting that this is going to go down, and it has started to correct a little bit today after that enormous pump. And remember, there's going to be people that have made money. Anyone that bought back here that's doubled or tripled their money, there's going to be some profit taking and whatnot. But let's get into this news and let's talk about whether or not Craig is Satoshi and what's happened. So a number of websites are covering this now. He's got the keys to this, around $1 million Bitcoin fortune worth $8 billion. It depends on what Bitcoin is worth that day. Craig Wright's got his lawyers. We've got the Kleiman estate lawyers. So if you don't know the background there, Dave Kleiman was someone that worked on Bitcoin very early. Ira is his brother, and so the Kleiman estate is his family, sort of trying to get their, I guess, fair share of what they see as the coins for the early work that they did. And Craig's saying, he's got the keys to those, and he's Satoshi. So this has just gone back and forth. There's been all sorts of holdups. I'll let you read that full article there if you want. But what's more interesting is that this has kind of come from left field. This evidence hasn't been presented previously. So this is actually the third Tulip Trust document, and as it says here, this wasn't produced prior to the court's orders and whatnot. So the plaintiffs have only just received this document for the first time on the 6th of January. So these things keep, I guess, coming out of nowhere, and there's been lots of stalling. And let's not forget, there's been lots of promises in the past as well that haven't come true, which we'll get to. If you want to read everything that's happening, this document is public, so you can read through that there. But basically, the last part of this key shard that he's referring to is this Shamir secret sharing. So what you can do is shard this key up. So most people have probably heard of multi-sig wallets. This is similar, where you can break up a private key or an encryption key into these smaller shards. And unless you've got all the shards, you can't make that master key. Now, in the world of Bitcoin, even if you have the private key, if someone steals my private key, if I've actually got that encrypted and I've got a password or other layers of security, it still doesn't mean that I can actually access the file or the Bitcoin in this case. So it's not the final piece of the puzzle. We don't have any evidence of the private key yet. Craig's just saying that he's got the final slice of this key shard. So that's basically where we're at the moment. So as CoinDesk reported this article as well, but it was later when they made this update that was more interesting to me. So in a new filing just on Tuesday, the Kleiman attorneys have said that Craig Wright produced more than 16,000 Bitcoin addresses, but no information about this bonded courier who supposedly delivered the final slice of this key. So we've got no evidence that this has actually happened. It's all hearsay at this stage. And what he's produced is just 16,000 Bitcoin addresses. And as you guys know, the Bitcoin blockchain is public, so you can look at early addresses, you can join the dots, the software and whatnot. Now you can say, well, these are all the addresses that Satoshi's used. So again, this doesn't really prove anything, just saying that, well, these are 16,000 Bitcoin addresses. We don't have any further evidence just yet. So what I want to talk about now is analysis around Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. So for those that don't know, in 2017 and for years before, there was a lot of debate about how can Bitcoin scale. And the decision was made by a group to increase the block size and do their hard fork. They didn't agree with SegWit that happened on the main Bitcoin chain as a soft fork. So they decided to do a hard fork and increase the block size, and that was called Bitcoin Cash. Now, after that happened, Craig and Roger had a falling out. Jihan Wu was in the mix there. And as we've seen, Roger's come out and said that he was deceived and whatnot. So that all had a falling apart. So then they did another hard fork from Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. Then we had the mining wars, and that was all around the time when Bitcoin's price was dropping from 6K down to 3K. There was a lot of fear in the market about the hash wars and would Bitcoin survive and this, that, and the other. So this was a good analysis done by Missouri Coin Metrics about the different hard forks. So head over there and check that out. But I just want to show you some of these charts. And this is probably the one that I feel is really important to understand. So realized market cap basically means, don't look at CoinMarketCap or any of those other sites that show you the market cap. The realized cap is actually, well, what's the last price that coins moved from each addresses? So it's all well and good to say that your Bitcoin is worth 20,000, but has everyone actually had a chance to sell at that price? So the real cap is more of a realistic valuation of what everyone has had a chance to buy and sell and move their coins around. Well, what market cap, what value has the whole network actually realized? A more fairer value. So we see Bitcoin has its realized cap over $100 billion, BSV, about 8, and then, Bitcoin Cash about 8, and BSV was around $1 billion. So quite a low realized cap. There hasn't been a lot of coins moved. And the issue I want to get to talk about later on is about when there's a hard fork, not all those Bitcoin whales claimed their Bitcoin Cash. So if you've got keys to Bitcoin at the time when there's a hard fork, you've got keys or a claim to the other hard fork coins. Now, the original Bitcoin whales have still got their keys that allow them to claim Bitcoin Cash, and it also allows them to claim Bitcoin Satoshi's vision. And I don't think many of them have even bothered to do so. So the circulating supply versus the actual real supply that is actually circulating, they're two different numbers. Now, some people sold all their Bitcoin Cash, but if you bought that Bitcoin Cash off people before the second hard fork, well, you've got keys to Bitcoin Satoshi's vision, and that might not have been claimed either. And it's interesting because those two networks are now fighting it out as the original Bitcoins and whatnot. And some of those holders or the Bitcoin Cash whales might have keys to a lot of Bitcoin Satoshi's vision that they haven't yet dumped. So that's where the dynamic gets very, very interesting. Other metrics I want to show you, one of the things that the BSV crowd say a lot is that there's so many more transactions, we increase the block size, there's so much going on. The truth is that there's a weather app, it's run by some Australian guys. I'm sure they're great guys, I'm sure they mean well. It's cool to show that these things can happen on blockchain, but 98% of the data on BSV is from a weather app. Now, are people really desperate for an immutable, they can't find out what the weather is, they need blockchain? I don't think so. So saying that there's so much happening on BSV when the truth is there's 98% of that data is from a weather app, you can't say that there's so much more happening versus Bitcoin or Ethereum or these other chains with far more participants and activity, dApps and whatnot on top of them. So that is a misrepresentation, I feel, and if you feel I'm wrong, let me know why in the comments below. Hash rate. Now, this is what secures the network. Look how Bitcoin hash power absolutely dwarfs BSV and Bitcoin Cash. And if ever the Bitcoin miners wanted to attack BSV or Bitcoin Cash, they'd only have to attack it for a few hours to rewrite days or weeks of data and mining, and they can cause chain splits, all sorts of troubles if they really want to point that hash power at these smaller chains, which are just tiny in comparison. And remember, with the Bitcoin halving coming up, Bitcoin Cash and BSV actually have their halving is going to fall slightly earlier than Bitcoin itself. So at that point, when their block reward drops in half, well, if you've got miners and you're going to be getting paid half as much to mine these coins that are worth far less, all of a sudden you say, well, I might as well mine Bitcoin. I can get double the reward still. They haven't had their block halving yet. So a lot of this hash rate might go back to Bitcoin, and that makes these chains even weaker again. Then that creates this cycle where it can be more easily attacked. So here's what we're seeing at the moment, a bit of a game. Is this game theory playing out? These smaller chains literally need to pump the price of their coins. They need to make as much money as possible because they need to batten down the hatches, and they're going to have a really rough couple of days or weeks in between when their halvings take place and then when Bitcoin's halving takes place, because it's just not going to be profitable to mine those chains compared to Bitcoin. And that's really represented here. We see how much more mining revenue you can get from mining Bitcoin compared to these other coins. As I just mentioned, that's going to halve. So this is only going to get worse. Now, there's some brilliant apps out there. I've got premium memberships to a lot of these. So Sentiment. We're going to have a look at a few of these metrics, but the most important metric that I like to look at is this realized cap. They've got so many other cool metrics you can play with, but unfortunately, this data just isn't available for BSV and these smaller coins. And I had a chat to a lot of these guys, a lot of these different teams today, so that's not going to show up for me. Had a lot of reached out to all these other teams and said, can you get me some data on realized market cap, days destroyed, dollars invested, these really granular metrics where I can do my deep fundamental analysis. And unfortunately, we just don't have these metrics available for these smaller coins. So check that out. Realized cap compared to market value, the difference, these things are so invaluable for picking when Bitcoin might be overvalued and people are going to take profits, or when it might be undervalued and it's a good time to come in and buy. So yeah, I love this data. Members, you guys do get access to that as well. Other sites, I do like the TIE. Again, they don't have the exact stuff that I want. They've got a lot of good info around BSV and all the coins, but they don't have that exact info I want. Token Analyst, another good one. Glass Nodes, awesome data. Missouri I already mentioned, and Bitcoin info charts. But yeah, unfortunately, they don't have that really detailed stuff that I personally want to look at for my research. So let's talk about the actual circulating supply. And this tweet's a little bit old now, but it's still really relevant. So BSV, this was during the year when it had that other pump that I was talking about. The actual float, the circulating supply of BSV is low. So forking is structurally removed most of the coins from supply, because you lose those coins. They're not in existence because of the confusion around keys. A lot of exchanges that were holding Bitcoin. And we know that 90% of people keep their Bitcoin on exchanges. So all of those exchanges didn't even issue BSV that had the coins, the Bitcoins or the Bitcoin Cash, that had the private keys that allowed people to qualify for those forks. Some exchanges never even gave that. So that just basically destroys structurally a lot of the supply of BSV. But if you go to CoinMarketCap, it still says that, hey, there's 18 million in circulation now. There's going to be 21 million that ever exist, the same as Bitcoin. But the reality is it's far less, because all those coins, they never actually came into existence. People never actually claim them. So a lot of FUD around the hash wars, more reasons for these coins to sell off. Some people dump them. What ends up happening is the people that do claim them, they say, this is pretty worthless, I'm just going to dump it and get more Bitcoin. That ends up really concentrating. So the only people that are buying up those coins are the people that believe in BSV. Now they're basically these huge whales and bag holders. They become the only holders. And then you end up with this community that believes in a project, and they're probably not going to sell coins even on days like today. So you end up with this very illiquid coin. It's similar to these altcoins where it's locked up and founders have got all the tokens and they're not willing to sell. And then we get this hype and this narrative, it starts to build. So we see these huge pumps because there's actually just very little liquidity, and what is being traded is on exchange with this leverage. So all this sort of ties together. We've seen in the past, most of you will have heard about the Hunt brothers that cornered the silver market and cornered all that supply, and then you get this huge pump in silver price because there's no price where they were even willing to sell. So I love it when we can draw these parallels throughout history. So have a read of that thread if you want as well. There's one more here I just wanted to show you around the mechanics around the Bitcoin pump and what's going on at the moment. So what he's saying here is that no one other than the CoinGeek and Calvin and the hardcore BSV guys are actually mining BSV at the moment. So adding more hash power doesn't really get them more rewards, because they're already, all those mining pools are already getting all that money. So there's no point putting more hash power and putting more money into investing more miners. You're already getting the majority of the coins. So instead, why don't they point that towards Bitcoin Cash? Like a couple of weeks ago, he's saying there was an unknown miner showed up to get 60% of the hash power. So all of a sudden, the BSV guys might be stealth mining Bitcoin Cash. They're winning a lot of the rewards, and now they can just take all that Bitcoin Cash that they got and dump it for Tether. So all of a sudden they're sitting on this Tether. They start to wait for these news narratives. Maybe they know this news is coming. They start to do a lot of wash trading on these smaller exchanges. As I said, a lot of the big exchanges don't have BSV listed. You can use bots or whatnot. I'm not sure if that's true. But basically, you can start to make it look like there's a lot of volume being traded. There's a bit of momentum building. It becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. All of a sudden, he can push up the price of BCH and BSV. Take profits, repeat this process. So as long as BSV is below parity with BCH, he can continue to kind of keep it there, because there's no point him mining that hash. He might as well mine that other coin, goes those profits and whatnot, and then just buy the BSV and hold it. So saying this actually all pretty genius. Recently, there was another piece here about Calvin's mining operation had to cancel the purchase that Canadian regulators came in and wanted to hold off the trading and whatnot. So he's got a lot of these SHA-256 miners that are just sitting there gathering dust. So another interesting theory. I'm not sure what to make of that. Let me know in the comments below if you think that there's a bit of game theory playing out there. So finally, let's get to what is going to happen now. And there's been some interesting people putting their thoughts here. So Ryan Selker's saying the best thing that could happen right now is for Craig to actually get access to those keys, just dump it on the market. It's probably going to be bad in the short term, but it's going to be absorbed by the market. And then again, he's saying that the forks would just fade into the background and that would be glorious. I'm not sure if that would be the case. We've seen Dovey from China here come out and say that basically there's been a lot of people buying BSV as a bit of insurance in case the Tulip Trust thing does play out to be true and Craig turns out to be Satoshi. And what we saw from a developer here was saying, look, as an ex-professional C++ developer, I can assure you that Craig didn't and couldn't write the original Bitcoin code. It's clear as day. Seeing this fact helps me see through all the noise. Writing style and demeanor, totally different too. So let's talk about what happens in the past when someone like Roger, who was very close with Craig during that hard fork and put his faith in him, and then they came out and they had that nasty public split. Now, Craig threatened to crash Bitcoin Cash's price to zero in an email to Roger, and Roger came out and said, I was wrong, I was fooled, Craig's a fraud, and then he got this email basically saying that, I'm going to crash your coin, it's going to zero, blah, 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 and obviously that hasn't happened. So another thing that Craig said he was going to do that hasn't played out, that's over a year old now. Another reminder here from this tweet that Craig said that there was a fatal flaw in SegWit and that Bitcoin would be, killed. It would go into oblivion within a year. So once again, that's been well over a year now. That hasn't happened. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, all these other coins. Remember, there was that other group that was started and they were going to point all their hash at all these different coins one by one and kill all the altcoins. So none of these things have happened that Craig has said he's going to do. Here's a list of some of the things, as it says here, lies, forgeries, and BS. So a long list here, questionable statements and activities. I'm not going to go through them all. You can pause the screen and read through this now. But basically, here's a few of the ones that I think really stand out. So Craig Wright once said, I'm a lawyer, this is financial law, this is my area of specialty. Whereas Satoshi, when asked about financial law, said that, I'm not a lawyer, I can't answer that question. So, black and white answers there. Craig's saying at no point is Bitcoin a cryptocurrency. Satoshi has called Bitcoin a cryptocurrency on several occasions. Craig saying that he's an academic coder and has no idea about real world coding, but Satoshi said that he's better with code than with words. So just time after time, example after example of things where, Craig has just got it wrong. We know that Craig was trading Bitcoin and lost money on Mt. Gox in 2013 and 14. Does that sound like something Satoshi would be doing with 1 million coins? Craig's calling in his early writings, mentioning Bitcoin as bit space coin with a capital C, whereas Satoshi never used to call it that or refer to it that way. A lot of these other technical details that Craig has just got wrong in the past. So, look, some people are saying that, oh, no, you've always said Craig's a fraud, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, no. If you've listened to what I've said maybe Craig was involved in some way, in some capacity early on. Exactly how early, I don't know. But is he the sole creator that did all the coding and did everything? The way that Satoshi talked about, the banks and whatnot, and now Craig's talking about we're going to be working with the banks and inside the law. Another example here was about Craig saying that he doesn't like, people that are anonymous are, cowards. And yet Satoshi was all about, here it is, the quote, anonymity is the shield of cowards. It's the cover used to defend their lives. My life is open and I have little to care for my privacy. So that was something that Craig said just 6 months before Satoshi Nakamoto appeared. So obviously Satoshi loved his privacy and disappeared into the background. So there's just these really conflicting things that just do not make sense. And that's why I'm not convinced that Craig is the sole creator of Bitcoin. But again, if I'm wrong, let me know why in the comments below. Some more theories floating around Reddit today. Calvin Ayre might be sharing a cell with Craig in 2020. The more disclosed documents revealed the extent to which N-Chain's chairman and investor Calvin Ayre participated in facilitating Craig's unlawful taking and capitalizing on Kleiman's intellectual property. So I think we're going to see a lot of court cases. You haven't heard the end of this. It's going to continue. I think there's a chance now for them to go and do more research and background and prove those points and talk about all the things I've spoken about tonight. I don't think the community is that genuinely worried yet. Maybe it's just the poll, but a lot of people saying they think BSV is going to be under $100 within a month from now. Obviously, I love trading. There have been several opportunities to long and short this. Not many exchanges listed, so FTX do have that perpetual swap. I've done the tutorial. If you want to know how to use that, that is in the comments below. I've done a write-up for you guys this morning in our premium group. I'll continue to do some more research and let you know how I think to trade it and let you know what I think is going to play out. Keep you guys one step ahead because I know this is absolutely crazy times in the market. So I will take some questions and have a quick read through the chat at the moment. But if you guys do want more information about all the fundamentals, the on-chain data, the sentiment analysis, as well as the TA, it is really important on nights like tonight where we get all this information come together. And final thing I just want to show you is let's just compare the BSV shorts. So on Bitfinex, we've seen it really skyrocket. So from a low number here, 40,000, it's skyrocketed up to 80,000 here. So a lot of people are betting that BSV is going to go down. Now, if it has another pump, that can cause a squeeze and it can go higher. So you shouldn't be margin trading this, whether you're using those bull and bear tokens on FTX or you're using leverage on different exchanges. Just be careful out there if you are. This is something for experienced traders. Yes, there's some great profits to be made, as I've posted about publicly. Well done to those that made money on the way up. Well done to those that made money on the way down, but please be careful if you are going to trade it. All right, let's have a read through these comments. Yes, Craig is Australian as well. Look, I'm open to having him on the channel, but I just feel that like a lot of the BCS community, he's going to come on and be sarcastic and rude and not have a mature conversation with me. That's what frustrates me. That's why these communities are never going to catch on, because they're so rude to everyone else. And Bitcoin is about the community, the network effects, and that's why Bitcoin is winning by a factor of 100 compared to anything else, especially the forks. If Craig gets the keys, yes, he can sign a transaction. He can move a coin. That's the sort of things you can do to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are, that you do have access to the coin. So whether or not that makes you Satoshi, again, we'd have to find out. Well, what happened with that Tulip Trust? How was it designed? Did Craig come later on, and was it because Dave Kleiman or Hal Finney knew that he was going to die? They wanted to create some sort of trust. There's all these reasons why they could have given it to people that worked early on. It doesn't make them the creator, but we don't know any of the information behind that yet. Well, guys, this has been going for half an hour. That's pretty crazy. I wanted to whip through that pretty quick, and it still took half an hour. So I am going to wrap it up. As someone's saying, yeah, we've raised some money for the bushfires. Thanks for all the donations. No problem at all. Look, guys, I'll do some more updates in the group soon. Head over to nuggetsnews.com.au if you want more information on anything we do. And members, I'll do another daily update for you tomorrow. Otherwise, guys, please smash that like button. Share this video around. Let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.